My mother slid a folder across the kitchen table the morning after I turned 18. She smiled like she was serving pancakes. Inside that folder was a plan to take my grandfather's $681,412 trust and move it into a family account. My stepfather had already picked the attorney. My mother had already rehearsed the tears. My stepsister's college tuition was already written into the paperwork. They thought I was the quiet daughter. They thought quiet meant easy. They had no idea that at 12:01 a.m., while they were sleeping upstairs, I had already signed every dollar into a new trust they could never touch. By 9:03 that morning, my mother was still smiling. By 9:05, she was pale. By 9:07, my stepfather was being warned not to threaten me on an open legal call. Welcome back to Valora Stories. My name is Quinn Everett. I had just turned 18, and this is the story of how my family tried to steal my inheritance at breakfast. 6 months before that morning, I found the envelope. It was hidden inside my grandfather's old cedar box, the one he gave me on my 17th birthday. Inside were a pressed maple leaf, a photo of him and Grandma Margaret, and a sealed white envelope with my name on it. On the front, in Grandpa Harold's handwriting, it said, "Open only if something feels off with your mother before your 18th birthday. Call David Caldwell immediately." I sat on the edge of my bed holding it. My grandfather had been dead for a year and a half, and somehow, he had still managed to warn me. Downstairs, I heard papers. Legal papers. My mother's voice was low. Mark's voice was lower. "Once she signs, the rest is just paperwork," my mother said. Mark asked, "And if she hesitates?" My mother laughed. "Quinn will sign. She always does." That was the first time I understood. They did not think I trusted them. They thought I did not know how to say no. My father died when I was 10. His name was Gregory Everett. He drove a silver Ford Ranger, made terrible pancakes, and called me Peanut until the day he died. One foggy morning in November, he left for a delivery run and never came home. 2 years later, my mother married Mark Hollis. Contractor, big truck, big laugh, the kind of man who called himself old school when he meant nobody should question him. He had a daughter named Skylar, 2 years younger than me. I learned fast that my mother had 3 rules. Do not cry. Do not get too happy. Do not need anything. If I cried, she called me dramatic. If I laughed too loudly, she told me to calm down. If I asked for help, she sighed like my existence had paperwork attached. So I became quiet. My mother thought quiet meant obedient. It did not. Quiet meant I was watching. Quiet meant I remembered everything. The only people who never punished my feelings were Grandma Margaret and Grandpa Harold. Their farmhouse was the one place I could breathe. Grandma made cinnamon toast and let me talk without correcting my tone. Grandpa grew tomatoes behind the shed and told me things like, "People reveal themselves when money enters the room." I thought he was being wise. He was being specific. Grandma Margaret died when I was 14. Grandpa Harold held on 2 more years after that. When he died, the will reading happened in a law office with green carpet and bad coffee. The lawyer said Grandpa had left me a trust, about $681,000. I could not touch the principal until my 18th birthday. On that day, full ownership transferred to me. My mother's face did not look proud. It looked busy. Grandpa's note inside the trust packet was only 6 words. "Your choice. Your life. Love, Grandpa." My mother read those 6 words once. Then her eyes changed. That was the moment she stopped seeing my inheritance as mine. She saw it as late. The first strange visitor came in December, a man in a gray suit, charcoal Lexus, leather binder. He came to our house every Wednesday at 4:30. My mother said he was an insurance guy, then a financial planner, then a friend of Mark's. The story changed. The binder did not. One afternoon in January, I came home early from the library. Snowstorm. My shift got cut. I came through the mudroom and heard Mark say, "Family money stays with family hands." My mother said, "Not so loud." Then paper swept across the kitchen table. I pushed the door open loudly. "Mom, I'm home." When I entered the kitchen, the table was clean. My mother was smiling, too wide. "Snow day, huh? Want cocoa?" I said yes. Then I went upstairs, and that Friday I opened Grandpa's envelope. I took it to Willow Creek Park. The sky was gray, the swings were empty. Inside was one page. "Peanut, if you are reading this, something has gone wrong with your mother. I never wanted to poison you against her, but I could not leave you without a door. David Caldwell has been my attorney for 30 years. He knows everything. He is waiting for your call. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to choose. I believe you will choose well. Love, Grandpa. Below that was a phone number. I dialed. A woman answered. Caldwell Estate Law. I said, "My name is Quinn Everett. My grandfather was Harold Everett. He told me to call David Caldwell." There was silence. Then she said softly, "Hold on, sweetheart." A click, then a man's voice. Calm, older, ready. "Quinn, this is David Caldwell. I've been expecting your call." Caldwell's office was in Lancaster, on the second floor of a brick building with a dying plant near the window. He explained everything slowly. Trust, beneficiary, fiduciary duty, irrevocable. Then he opened a folder. "Your mother has been working with Lance Briggs." "Who is that?" "An estate attorney with 2 prior reprimands. He drafts documents most reputable lawyers would refuse." He slid a page toward me. Everett Family Financial Unification Agreement. My full legal name was on the top. Quinn Marie Everett. "What does it do?" I asked. "It would make your mother co-trustee. It would give her financial power of attorney. It would assign part of your beneficial interest to an LLC." "What LLC?" "Hollis Everett Holdings." Mark's last name, my father's last name, stitched together like theft had branding. Caldwell said, "The draft is dated before your 18th birthday, while you were still legally a minor. So my mother would sign with me." "Yes. And then?" "Then your inheritance becomes family managed." Family managed. That was what they called taking money from a girl before she knew how to stop them. I asked him what we could do. He said, "We build something stronger first." So we did. The new trust was named the Margaret Trust, after my grandmother. Corporate trustee. Midland Trust Services. No family access, no mother, no Mark, no Skylar, no entity connected to any of them. Distributions only for my tuition, housing, medical needs, and living expenses. Spendthrift clause, no creditors, no pressure, no lump sum withdrawal, irrevocable. Caldwell looked me straight in the eye. Irrevocable means once you sign, even you cannot undo it later. If your mother cries the right tears in 5 years, you still cannot hand it back. I said, "Good." For the next 2 months, I lived in that house like nothing had changed. My mother made dinner. Mark complained about permits. Skylar talked about Bucknell, and I sat there passing the salt to people who were drafting documents around my future. Sunday dinner became a rehearsal. Mark kept saying, "Lawyers drain money." My mother said, "Family accounts are safer." Skylar said once, without looking up from her phone, "Mom says the money was supposed to be all of ours anyway." The room froze. My mother's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Mark snapped, "Sky, eat." I kept chewing. That was how I learned Skylar knew at least part of it. 2 days before my birthday, my mother threw an early dinner at Willow Creek Country Club. 15 people, Pastor Lowry, Mark's business partner, 2 neighbors, a few women from my mother's church circle. She stood during dessert and tapped her glass. "I want to toast my brave girl," she said. "Tomorrow, Quinn becomes a woman, and she is going to make such smart decisions." Everyone raised a glass. Mark mouthed, "Big day." Across the room, a man in a navy blazer sat alone, eating Caesar salad, leather briefcase beside his chair. Mark nodded at him. The man nodded back. That was Lance Briggs. My mother's attorney had come to my birthday dinner one day early, waiting. At 11:47 p.m. on April 15th, my bedroom door was locked. My laptop was open. Caldwell was on Zoom. The corporate trustee was on Zoom. An online notary was on Zoom. At 11:59, Caldwell said, "Ready, Quinn?" I said, "Yes." The cursor blinked. 12 o'clock. Then 12:01. I typed my full legal name, Quinn Marie Everett. The notary confirmed. The trustee confirmed. A 2-factor code came through. I approved it. At 12:04 a.m., Priya Desai from Midland Trust Services said, "Confirmed. Funds received. $681,412.90. The Margaret Trust is fully funded, fully executed, irrevocable." Caldwell looked into the camera. "Happy birthday, Ms. Everett." I closed my laptop. Downstairs, the refrigerator hummed. Upstairs, my mother slept peacefully, probably dreaming about pancakes and signatures. The next morning, the kitchen smelled like bacon and syrup. My mother wore her pink robe. Her hair was pinned back. She hugged me longer than usual. There's my birthday girl. Mark sat at the table in a polo. Skylar sat with her phone beside the orange juice pitcher. And beside my mother's coffee mug sat a manila folder. Not hidden, not even slightly. 3 pancakes were stacked on my plate, thin birthday candles stuck into the top. Mark lit them. My mother said, "Make a wish, Quinny." I leaned forward. I wished for Grandpa to know. Then I blew them out. My mother let me eat 2 bites. Then she folded her hands. "Honey," she said, "now that you're 18, we need to talk about that money." There it was. She slid the folder across the table. It stopped against my plate. "Nothing scary," she said. "Just some family paperwork Mark's attorney prepared. A smart structure. For all of us." Mark nodded. "Nothing crazy, just protection." I opened the folder. Everett Family Financial Unification Agreement. Durable financial power of attorney. Co-trustee designation. Assignment of beneficial interest. Hollis Everett Holdings, LLC. Tuition assistance for Skylar Ann Hollis. I read every page. Slowly. At 2 minutes, my mother's smile twitched. At 4 minutes, Mark tapped his fingers. At 5 minutes, he said, "Quinn, sweetheart, you don't need to read every line." I said, "I like to understand what I sign." Mark's jaw tightened. "It's just paperwork." I tapped page 5. "What is Hollis Everett Holdings?" My mother said too quickly. "A family entity for tax purposes." "When was it formed?" She blinked. "I don't remember exactly." Mark snapped. "Quinn, sign the stickied pages and eat your pancakes." I looked at him. "Mark, how long have you known Lance Briggs?" The name landed like glass breaking. My mother said, "We haven't told you the attorney's name." "I know," I said. "That's what I'm noticing." Skylar finally looked up. Mark's face darkened. "Don't get cute." "I'm not being cute," I said. "I'm reading." I turned to the final page. The footer said, "Generated December 14th, 2025, Briggs & Associates, version 4.3. 4 months, 4 versions." I closed the folder carefully. "Mom, this was drafted 4 months ago." My mother's voice softened. The wounded voice. "We've been planning for your future." "No," I said. "You've been planning around it." Her eyes sharpened. "Quinny, you don't understand taxes. There are sharks out there." I looked down at the folder. "Apparently." Then my phone vibrated on the table. Everyone looked. The screen lit up. David Caldwell, Esquire. 9:03 a.m. My mother went pale. Mark half stood. "Don't answer that." "I think I will." My mother whispered, "Quinn, wait." I hit speaker. "Mr. Caldwell, you're on speaker. I'm at the kitchen table with my mother, Mark Hollis, and Skylar." His voice filled the room. "Good morning, Quinn. Happy birthday. I hope I'm not interrupting breakfast." "We were just starting a conversation about money." "Good timing, then." My mother gripped her mug. Caldwell continued, "I'm calling to formally confirm that the asset transfer completed successfully at 12:04 a.m. The Margaret Trust is fully funded. The trustee is Midland Trust Services. The transaction is legally irrevocable." The room went silent. Then Skylar said, "What?" Caldwell said, "Total funded amount, $681,412.90. My mother dropped her fork. A small, clean clink. Mark stared at the phone. "What trust?" "The Margaret Trust," Caldwell said calmly. "Established last night by Quinn Everett as sole beneficiary." My mother whispered, "Quinn, you didn't—" "I did." Skylar looked at me. "What does that mean?" Caldwell answered before I could. "It means the funds Quinn's grandparents left her can only be used for Quinn's benefit. They cannot be accessed by anyone else, ever." Mark stood. "This is—" Caldwell cut in. "Mr. Hollis, I would advise you not to finish that sentence on an open legal call." Mark sat back down. Hard. Caldwell continued. "My office also received a forwarded draft from Briggs & Associates 10 weeks ago. The document appears to be titled Everett Family Financial Unification Agreement." My mother whispered, "That's protected." "No, ma'am," Caldwell said. "The concern is not how I received it. The concern is what it attempted to do." Then he laid it out. 1. The document was unenforceable. 2. It was drafted while I was still a minor. 3. It attempted to move my inheritance into an LLC controlled by Mark. 4. That was a fiduciary breach. 5. Caldwell had already filed a complaint against Lance Briggs with the Pennsylvania Disciplinary Board. Mark's voice cracked. You filed on Briggs? Monday, Caldwell said. He was notified yesterday at 4. My mother put both hands over her mouth. I looked at her. Did you know what he was drafting? She did not answer. Mom, yes or no? Her eyes filled. Yes. Skylar made a sound like the air had left her body. Mark slammed his palm on the table. The salt shaker jumped. You did this behind our backs? I looked at him. No, Mark. I did mine with a licensed attorney at 12:01 a.m. as a legal adult. You did yours behind my back for 4 months while I was 17. His face turned red. We raised you. You moved in when I was 12, I said. You raised your expectations around my money, not me. My mother started crying. After everything I sacrificed for you, this is how you repay me? I stood, picked up the folder, picked up my phone. Mom, I don't have anything cruel to say, but I don't have anything kind either. Caldwell said, Quinn, your Aunt Beth is parked at the end of the driveway. You may leave whenever you're ready. My mother looked up. You called Beth? No, I said. Grandpa did. Years ago. That broke something in her face. I put on my jacket. At the front door, I turned back. Skylar was staring at me. She looked 16 for the first time in years. Sky, you didn't draft this. Don't carry it. Text me in a year. She nodded once. My mother sobbed into her hands. Mark stared at the table. The folder sat beside cold pancakes and spilled syrup. I walked outside. Aunt Beth's Honda Civic was waiting at the curb, engine running. She rolled down the window. Shoes off when we get home, she said. Tea first. Cry later. I got in. And for the first time in my life, I left that house without asking permission. A year later, I opened my trust statement in the library at Penn State. The Margaret Trust. Still protected. Still mine. At the bottom were 2 names, Harold and Margaret Everett. I touched the screen and whispered, You were right. Then I closed the laptop and walked home. If your mother slid that folder across the table, what would you have done? And what state are you watching from right now?